And welcome everybody to our investor presentation and question and answer session. We are very, very excited to share this opportunity with you because, well, this is an opportunity that I can guarantee you've never seen before, and an opportunity that just may change your life. And I know for sure that it will change the lives of hundreds, eventually thousands of people here in the Las Vegas community. And this opportunity won't be available soon. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we begin, let me share with you, a very important story. You see, a few short years ago, on streets very similar to what you see on the screen right now, there was a man who was trying to make a name for himself, who really wanted to make a difference in this world. But no matter what he tried, no matter how hard he worked, it seemed he just couldn't get it right. He tried several different things, but was failing over and over and over, and he just didn't know what to do. And life just kept beating him up. He ended up going through a divorce. He eventually lost his job. He was depressed and despondent. And to escape, he tried chasing money and the things that money buys. And when that didn't go his way, he was eventually indulging in drugs and alcohol, which led him to a life of petty crimes to support that. Well, that lifestyle got him into trouble, as it always does. We all know that. And he ended up having run ins with the law and he was arrested. But he wasn't arrested a few times or even 8 times, not even 12 times. Oh, he was arrested over and over and over and over. And people around him thought that he would live a life of crime forever. And they pretty much labeled him a menace to society. But one day something happened. Through a series of events and circumstances that could have only been orchestrated by God himself, in his opinion, somebody was put in his life that really believed in him and invested in him. And that little belief created a spark in him. And well, that little spark ignited a roaring fire. He has always known that he was meant to do great things in this world and in this life. And so he did. He cleaned himself up. He started changing his daily habits and the people that he hung around, and he got around some really, really good influences that believed in him. And within a few years, he created numerous multi-million-dollar companies. He has helped hundreds of employees change their lives and the lives of their families for the better. He has also mentored and coached others to do the same, and he's impacted thousands of lives in a positive way. He absolutely firmly believes that one person can change a family, one family can change a community, one community can change a city, and that's now his mission. Now, I know if you're anything like me, you may wonder if somebody tells you this type of story, if it's just some made up story. But the truth of the matter is, guys, the man in this story is me. Whoops. The man in this story is me. You see, I sit here before you today because somebody believed in me and helped me change my life. And in case you don't know this, transformed lives transform lives, plain and simple. So I'm inviting you to join Claudia, my beautiful bride, and myself, and our team, likely somebody that invited you to this webinar, and our family of existing investors that extends from the East Coast to the West Coast, from the Canadian border to the southern tip of Texas, to be that somebody, for someone else as we continue to help change the lives of others with our vision and our missions here at Three Keys Communities. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with our journey, that journey that Claudia and I are on, and the lower right-hand photo, we are standing in front of our first home that we bought 3 years to the day that this hopeless, homeless drug addict was released from a 30-day rehab. We're standing in front of that house that we bought 3 years to the day, guys. And that upper left-hand photo is one of our 5 multi-million-dollar producing auto repair shops that we eventually scaled up into. That upper right-hand photo, we're standing in front of our real estate office in San Diego, California. And the Lord doesn't take us. I personally believe the Lord doesn't take us through these things with us to and want us to just sit and hold the remote control and not share it with a bunch of people. So I did write a book after being encouraged numerous times to do so. It's called the Addicted to Life: How I Went from Homeless to Extraordinary Success and Happiness in a Short Period of Time. And I will tell you that along that journey, Claudia and I, that we've been on, we finally said one day that enough is enough. We were tired of living paycheck to paycheck, even though I was making a pretty good income working for somebody else. And we quit our jobs. We put our house for rent, and that house we're standing in front of right there, and we bought a business and moved 350 miles away to start chasing our dreams. But eventually we realized we had a high-paying job at that business. We didn't own a business, it owned us. And we were done with having only one source of income one source from which our income came from. And we started investing in real estate with the extra income, we call it surplus, that we had produced from our business and our jobs. And I can tell you that the Lord has blessed that decision 100-fold since that time. So, with all of that being said, I'd like to introduce you to Three Keys Communities, a place to unlock new beginnings. Okay, community, this project you're about to see represents all the core values of what Three Keys Community stands for: freedom, prosperity, and love. If you know you're not where you want to be financially, or there's another level that you want to get to, then you are in the right place at the right time for the right reason. Because here we go, guys. This is investing with impact, ladies and gentlemen, where community meets prosperity and profitability. I feel there's never been a better time to make income while making an impact. And all of that being said, who is Three Keys? We're a private sector multifamily real estate operator with housing solutions designed to provide support for individuals affected by the justice system or confronting the urgent challenge of homelessness. Guys, we'll have 95 TLF, or transitional living facility options and 185 independent housing options through the county program called LEAPS. You'll hear us talk about that throughout this presentation. It is also known as Rapid Rehousing Initiative, RRI, which is also implemented by LEAPS, Landlord Engagement and Property Services, here in Clark County, Nevada, which is Las Vegas. But before we can begin talking about any investment, we will always talk about the disclaimer, which says, guys, the past performance does not guarantee future performance. Please, please, please do your own due diligence on any investment that you're considering being a part of. And I just want you all to know that there is a QR code in the upper right-hand corner that you can scan, which will take you to some more information. But remember, always chat with the person that invited you here, because they're the ones that are kind of holding your hand through getting registered for this investment. So there's a little bit about the company and the property. Let's talk about the vision and the business plan. And I'm going to let my partner, Nicole, talk a little bit about that. Nicole, do you want to take it from here for a little bit?
Sure, thanks, Rob. My name is Nicole Capra, and I have been in Las Vegas for a long time, since the early 90s. I've seen a lot of changes since the early 90s. Back then, this was very much the old Wild Wild West. We had one jail, and about 100 people were in that jail. Today, we have over 13,000 people incarcerated in the Las Vegas Valley, and each month, about 500 of those people get released. And not all these people are what you might think of when you think about people who've done time. A lot of them are good people. A lot of them are people who, they're the Rob Rosells. They're people who just need somebody to believe in them and give them a second chance. Unfortunately, due to regulations in the Las Vegas Valley and housing regulations, a lot of these people get out and they don't have anywhere they can live. Either reluctance of landlords or just a lack of properties that are approved for people with a criminal record. So a lot of them end up going right back into the system, or a lot of them end up getting out and they end up homeless.
Right.
So we have a business plan that's really two parts. The first part is we are helping those clients coming over from Clark County. And so they are coming through what's called a rapid rehousing grant through the LEAPS program. These clients, we have got a waiting list of about 3,000 individuals. The good thing about working with the Clark County program is that these payments get processed each month on the first of the month. They come over ACH. We also get double security deposits with these, first and last month rent, as well as a $3,000 risk mitigation fund, which goes to securing your asset should there be damages that exceed that security deposit. The second part of our plan is the transitional living facility program, which is the part that we oversee directly. And so this is basically 38 units that will provide a total of 98 beds. And we will have our own on-site case management, program management. We work with several organizations in the community. And what's great about this is we have a steady rental income. These units are, or these beds are rented by the bed instead of by the unit. So it's really double the rental returns per unit that we would normally get. So quite a bit of your high returns are coming from this side of the program, I should say. It's just great. It's social impact investing. You're helping a lot of people while making really good money at the same time.
Yeah. And while we're on this slide, we'll talk a little bit about the two separate parts of the business plan. Part number one being that left-hand side where we're working with Clark County with that program I mentioned called LEAPS, or Rapid Rehousing Initiative, that pay us an initial $500 move-in or sign-on bonus for every new lease that we do, gives us a $3,000 back-end risk mitigation fund. What does that mean? They pay double the security deposit, but in case these tenants ever exceed that in damages, heaven forbid, it does happen from time to time, they've got an additional $3,000 that we can tap into. We just submit the receipts and get reimbursed. That's the left-hand side of the screen right now. The right-hand side is really, and I know she's very modest about it, but it's really Nicole Capra's wheelhouse, which is the transitional living facility side. Guys, we've been doing these webinars for so long that this and the raising the tail end of this final bit of capital is where we're at right now. This property, every bit of it, all 12 properties, all 233 units are under our control now. We own them, we've purchased them, and we're just backfilling in the additional capital that we need for the capital expenditures. We'll talk a little bit about that. But part of that was during our initial business plan was we were going to hopefully have our licensing in place and everything we needed in place within the first 24 to 36 months. I'm happy to tell you that we're not even 12 months into complete ownership of this. In fact, we just closed on the last 144 units, 149 units it is, on May the 31st. We've already got the city licensing approved for the transitional living facility. We've got the state licensing approved. We're on the final dotting of the I's and crossing of the T's to get that transitional living facility in place. And we've already been approved by probation and parole. Guys, I know that may not sound much when I say it. That's like an act of Congress for all three of these things to come together, as well as the charity that we've put in place that's going to pretty much run the operations of all this and be able to accept funds from charitable organizations because we are providing housing. All of those four approvals have happened literally in 9 months. We're just starting month number 10 of ownership right now, and we've actually already started receiving applications from probation and parole. So I've set the stage there for you to maybe elaborate on that a little bit there, Nicole. Do you mind sharing a little? We've also, you can talk about the different positions we've already filled for the transitional living facility. Let's take a moment and just share that if you don't mind.
Sure. So we have a case manager on site, a very we've just got a great team in place. Just a lot of experience. So we're very lucky to have the team we have. We have a case manager in place. We have a program manager that we're working with. The director, position is filled. We're bringing on the admin soon. And so, yeah, we're just really excited. Like you said, had a schedule. I don't know if you mentioned the grant that we received, but we did receive a grant for the repairs. And so one of the city requirements was to have certain things done to the building. And we had another nonprofit come in and grant all of the exterior rehabs to us. So a huge blessing there. And furniture has been ordered, things are getting ready to go. So we are ramping up, have these doors open and beds filled any day now. And yeah, very far ahead of schedule. Just blessing. Everything seems to just be falling into place perfectly.
100%.
Oh,
And this
can I give
this
a shout
this
out?
nineplex, And this nineplex was actually supposed to have 21 beds because there is a mixture of ones and twos there. We just recently had two of the units, one of them vacated, one's identical to it, soon to be vacated. That's a one bedroom with a huge oversized living room. It's very, very functionally obsolete. The way that the the living room is three times the size of the one bedroom that it is. So we've already talked to a contractor about erecting a wall, which will give them plenty of AC, plenty of one of the windows, three outlets, and a bedroom door. And we will be able to add four total new beds to what was going to be 21 beds for this transitional living facility. It is actually going to be 25 beds, which at at $1,100 per bed, that's another $4,400 a month per income just for this nineplex. There's nothing to say of the 20plex right down the road that we're going to be, which will be our next one in line to move these tenants over to. So very, very exciting developments in the transitional living facility. I see some names on this webinar that are already invested that are really here to get an update. So I wanted to share that. Now, if I'm an investor that is wanting to get involved with this, I can tell you from my own experience being on the other side of the counter as a limited partner investor, the safest time to get involved is not in the beginning when funds are just being raised in a startup. It's when the business has already been purchased and operations are in full swing and all these positive things that I've just shared with you are already happening. This is a much safer time to get involved because we own the properties and things are already established and we're already implementing a large portion of the business plan. So that's kind of an update on the side two of this, part two of our business plan that we're executing on this property. Go ahead, Nicole.
So this is our comps, really. When you're looking at a profile, you're going to want to look at rental comps. This is what rental comps are for what we're doing. This is what's called fair market rent, and fair market rent is basically what we charge for the county side, just to be clear, not for the TLF side, but for the other portion, the other 185 units. This is what the HUD and the IRS put out each year, and they say this is what's fair and this is what the county guarantees. So these are essentially our comps. What's interesting about this, and which you might want to note, is that we didn't know how much fair market rents were going to increase each year, so we, had to take a guess at it when we did the underwriting. We went very conservative, 6 to 10%. However, traditionally for the past 5 years, fair market rents have increased 17 to 23% over the years. So based on supply and demand, basically there's no more supply of this asset type in Las Vegas. They're not building anymore, obviously. And so the demand just keeps going up.
Awesome. 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 Click the next button here. There we go. There we go. So this is more of a location of the properties. As you can see up here in the upper right-hand corner, this is the iconic Stratosphere Hotel and Casino that you just saw on the first slide for this presentation. Behind it is the Strip. This is where there's roughly 149 doors right behind the Las Vegas Strip of ours. And then as we zoom out in this larger picture, that's where that's located. Just a few minutes north is where the other 84 units are located. That's where the initial 9 unit that's going to be 25 beds is, as well as the 20 unit that's going to be roughly 38 beds. But for those of you that don't know, Las Vegas is really an exploding community. The population is exploding. The values are exploding. This is a place where it's much more than the Strip. You always think of Vegas. Before living here, I would go there for different concerts and different shows, different getaways, as well as conventions. There is so much more to the Strip than that, and do your own due diligence, but I can tell you it is a mecca for many different trades, many different categories of revenue. So let's talk about one of the most important things that I'm sure you all want to know about, and that's really how quickly you're going to get your money back and what are the types of returns. So let's segue right into that, if I may. And then this slide is really a summary of some of the things we've already talked about, right? Purchase price is $28.2 million. It's a 233 unit complex. It's 12 properties. This is what's considered a scattered portfolio. It's $121,000 a door, all said and done by the time we got the third tranche closed. The loan balance of all three loans, because we did break it up into three LLCs, so we have three loans totaling 16.8, almost $16.9 million. Loan to value is roughly right around 60 on a blended rate. It's like 59 and change. The total capital that we're raising is $15.9 million. A little bit of a breakdown on the slide for you. 11.3 of that was down payment. 2.3 is the injection we're putting into the property. There's also, in addition to that, that's not on the slide, about $500,000 in reserves for the unknowns for the 10-year hold on this. And the closing cost totaled about $1.4 million. And yes, that's right, it is a 10-year hold. However, our assumptions and what we feel are conservative projections are actually getting our investors their money back within 5 years while you continue to stay in as an owner. Yes, that's right. Our goal is to refinance and do a supplemental loan on one of the loans, give our investors all their capital back, and then allow you to stay in as an owner on the property. So some of this is review. I'm going to go through it fast. 233 doors, 12 properties, $28.2 million. We've closed on all the properties as of May 31st of this year. This is a 506C offering for accredited investors only. However, we are also running in conjunction with that a crowd fund that allows our investors to come in with as little as $5,000. That's right, $5,000. We also have a third-party asset manager and property management company. I'm sorry, I got the two mixed up. So we have a property manager. People ask me this all the time. Are you managing these properties that you own all over the country? This one happens to be in our backyard, but no, even though it's in my backyard, we don't manage properties. We have a professional that is very responsible for filling the doors, collecting the rents, and enforcing the rules. That's what they do. With 20 years experience in the Las Vegas area, they've dealt with this clientele and these programs for years and years. And on this one, we also have what's called an asset manager. They oversee that property manager and make sure that the business plan is being implemented. I'm happy to say, very happy with Kim Brugman and Lighthouse. We'll talk about her in just a little bit. But our residents, as we talked about, are coming funneled directly through Clark County via that rapid rehousing initiative. And here's the key, and this is very, very important for that phase one of the business plan. This is not a set it and forget it for the tenants that are not transitional living facility clients, which is phase two of the business plan. Phase one of the business plan is it's a hand up, not a hand out. It's a 1 to 2 year program where they come in, they get job training, they get job placement, and they wean them off the rent so they are self-sufficient and productive members of society once again. For those of you that can benefit from the depreciation that goes along with running a cost segregation study. For those of you that don't know what that is, we can talk about more of that during the Q&A, but there will be a cost seg performed on this to allow you to offset other eligible income and lower your tax basis. And then the occupancy has been in that 90 to 94% all along. As of August, we were roughly about 92%. And then our goal is to take every investor, regardless of where you're at in your investment seasons. We want to take your education to the next level. And that's going to happen on webinars like this, even while we introduce this investment. It's going to happen during the monthly updates. We do a video, the quarterly updates we do live, as well as our live investor education and networking event on November the 22nd, which all investors, regardless of what amount, are invited to. We're going to have food, fun, networking, fellowship, and education with special guests and prizes. We're looking to really have a good time and get to know each other, but take your education on multifamily or syndication investing to the next level. So I want to really, really promote that. So I know this slide can look overwhelming, and I'm going to break it down for you. It's so that it's simple. This deal provides all of our investors an opportunity to invest in this project, guys. We've got 5 different classes, and what that means is we have 5 different ways for you to join this project. Whether you want to invest 5,000 or 500,000, we got a spot for you. Whether you're accredited or non-accredited, as I previously mentioned, we've got a spot for you. But I'm going to make it simple. Across the top, you've got B classes and you've got D classes. The B classes are accredited investors. That means According to the Security and Exchange Commission, you've got a net worth over $1 million or household income over 300,000 if you're married, 200,000 if you are single. That's accredited. If you meet that the requirement, then you've got these three to choose from if that's where you want to go. And we found a long time ago that some of our investors don't really care about back end equity. They care about monthly payments that they can depend on. They know what the amount is, and they just want to make a decent return. So, excuse me, we set aside a few $1 million of the raise for our Class B1 investor. We call it an interest-only investor. So that means they're going to get a 12% interest on their money. They're going to get a monthly check. The trade-off, the caveat, is we're going to pay 8% for cash flow purposes during the hold while we have your funds, receive an 8% every single month. I'm happy to say those have already started for our B1 investors. They're already receiving those monthly payments. And the other 4%, totaling the 12%, will be made whole at the time of refinance or sale of the property. Very likely, our projections have it as a refinance. So what does that look like? They're going to receive that monthly check, monthly check, monthly check. When we sell the property, they're going to get that 4% caught up. They're going to get their initial investment back, and they're going to exit the investment having made 12% returns. That's our interest-only investor. For Class B2, that is our $500,000 and above investor. We're offering a 12% preferred return. It's a 70-30 split to that LP investor, meaning they receive 70%. We as GPs do 30%. They're next in the capital stack or waterfall, next to be paid right after B1. And they will participate in that back end equity. They're going to retain the same ownership for post refinance as for cash flow once they have their own money back. And they're going to retain 75% of ownership on equity, meaning back end equity. Guys, that turns out to be roughly a 22 to 23% annualized average return. Very, very respectable. I'll show you on another slide what that looks like. And then our B3 investors, this is where we find most of our accredited investors live. They live in that $100,000 to $400,000 each investment that they're in. We're offering an 8% preferred return, a 70-30 split. They're next in the waterfall after B1 and B2. They will participate in all the same benefits as our B2 investor, and it turns out to be roughly a almost 21% annualized average return, and what we consider to be very conservative assumptions, guys. So that rounds out the three choices you have as an accredited investor. As a non-accredited investor, we'll still do a 5% preferred return. It's a $50,000 minimum investment. All the same business benefits are offered with a 70-30 split next in the capital stack or waterfall. You're going to stay in this with the same amount of equity once we refinance or sell the property, or excuse me, refinance the property, and you're going to end up with roughly about a 20% annualized average return. That is very, very respectable returns at all levels within this investment. The final class that we have here is a Class D2, and it's a $5,000 minimum investment. There is no preferred return at that level, and quite frankly, as you'll see on a slide in just a moment, it's not a cash flow investment. It is a set it and forget it back-end equity that turns out to be roughly 17% returns. It's very, very good, but it's not, again, as you'll see from the slides, it's not necessarily a cash flow play. It's more of a back-end equity play. So I put this slide in here to show two things. I think it's very important. A lot of people don't underwrite properties like we do, so they don't really know where to look. But every underwriting has some variance or margin of safety. We call it vacancy and concessions. Generally, it's 10% and 3%, and it weans down over the years, depending on how conservative your underwriting team is. I'm very conservative. I have it in there for every year on every property because you never know what's going to happen. However, on every property, I don't have a waiting list of 3,000 people like this rapid rehousing initiative does. I don't get my rents dropped in my bank account on the first of every month, ACH. Generally, I've got a professional rent collector on staff that calls and texts and emails and posts notices and does all those things they need to do. We don't have to do that on this property, but I still left that in there, that 13% every single year for the margin of safety for the unknown that makes it really sets us up to under promise and over deliver for our investors. I'm hoping that's there just for conservativeness. So what does that look like for each level of investor? Our B1, I used $100,000 as a guide because it's easier math. It is a $50,000 minimum. But at 100K, remember, this is our interest only investor. They're going to get 8% per year. It's $8,000 a year. That 40,000 is their 4% catch up. I'm sorry, no, excuse me. That is the total of those 5 years in our example of $40,000. The 20% is their 4% accumulated interest caught up, and then the 100,000 is their initial investment. This is where they exit, and they having made a 12% return on their investment. So this is B2. This is our $500,000 investor and above. That 60K is what a 12% preferred return looks like. You can see year 4 and year 5, it starts to get better based upon our assumptions. The 333 is what those 5 year of cash flow equals. The $91,000 is their pro rata share of the refinance proceeds for a total of 425 in those first 5 years. They will stay in as an owner and still get cash flow, that 117, get a nice fat check when we sell the property based upon our assumptions, having made a great, fantastic return after receiving their initial $500,000 back. The next level of investor on this is our, it didn't respond at first, then it did, B3. So you can see, even though there's an 8% preferred return, our conservative assumptions have that 8% not being met the first year, being caught up on the 3rd year and the 4th year, still did fantastic returns and was able to meet that 8% pref. And not to worry, if it's never made, it's always rolls into the following year. That's what preferred return means, just so everybody's aware. That 18,000 represents the amount of their share of the refinances, totaling 65K in those first 5 years. 23K is the second 5 years after receiving their 100K back. And then the 120 is what they receive as an equity check when we sell the property. That rounds out our accredited investors, our non-accredited investors. You can see it has a 5% preferred return at a $50,000 level. That would be $2,500 per year. Didn't hit it the first couple of years, made up for year 1 and year 3, year two and year 4, and so on. Still did very, very good for cash flow in those first 5 years. Then they received their initial investment back. Did get a nice check when we refinanced the property. Total of 25K in those first 5 years, 11K in cash flow, even though their money is back in their bank account, and a nice check when we sold the property. So very, very good returns. And then last but not least is our $5,000 investor. Again, it's a set it and forget it, not a cash flow play, as you'll see, but still did a little bit of cash flow conservatively in our underwriting, not much until years 4 and 5. Still did pretty good in the first 5 years on a $500,000 investment. Got their initial investment back. That 1171 is what they got for cash flow in the second 5 years. And as you can see, when we sell the property, they receive a nice check, which made it worth it to be in this investment, even with only a $5,000 investment. So there's the returns. Let's go a little bit deeper into the property portion of the business plan, because sometimes when you see a slide like what you see on the left-hand and the right side of this, with new interior paint, remodeled bathrooms, vinyl plank flooring, and so on, that's what they're going to do to the property. I can tell you 95% of this property has all that. The flooring's been done, the counters have been done, cabinets have been painted and upgraded, some new cabinets and so on. The surrounds have been done, the water heaters have been done. This property is already Taj Mahal 95% of the way on a lot of the portfolio. And then the exterior, this is our renovations and repairs budget with interior upgrades. As we go over the 10 years, we've set aside quite a bit of budget. We've already got a quote for painting, exterior upgrades and amenities, electrical, plumbing, windows, roofing. Look, guys, we've had the trades, whether it be roofers, electricians, the poop cam with plumbers, checking out the plumbing, which we've already done quite a bit of that already on a couple of buildings. We've had just about every trade go through every single door, air conditioning being a strong part of that, being in Nevada. We really, really have tried to be thorough to come up with a budget that leaves it with the reserves, and that's what we're raising the additional capital for, the final bit, which is not every bit of this, just a portion of this, but that gives you the property, the plan, and let's talk a little bit about the team, because the business plan and the property we've already talked about, but the team is the key. You know a little bit about my background. You've learned a little bit about my story. And for those of you that are interested, reach out to me. I'll get you a copy of my book and you can learn more about me. But my wife and I are entrepreneurs. We owned auto repair shops. And along the way, we knew that real estate investing was the way to go. We invested in Robert Kiyosaki's Wealth Intelligence Academy and Dave Lindahl, who's what I feel is the GOAT, the greatest of all time, and multifamily investing. Still my mentor to this day, still involved in a small group that he's a part of. And we're just action takers, guys. My wife and I are action takers. We were inducted in both of those schools' Hall of Fame because we actually did something with the $27,000 each one of those schools charges, and actually put some action to it. This is our portfolio. You can see that some of the properties have the word sold next to them because every single one of these properties is at a different section of the business plan, whether we just purchased it, we're in the middle of that business plan, or we're ready to exit. Some of these properties, we're already talking to brokers, two of them right now, three of them actually, that we're putting together an idea of who we're going to have represent us to go to market with these properties. You've met Nicole Capra. Again, her specialty is transitional living facilities, guys. That's what she's done. She's worked for the prison. She's worked for Hope for Prisoners. She's owned and operated her own TLF. And she is a big part of the second phase of this business plan, as well as a commercial real estate broker that helped find this project to begin with. And I promise I'm not going to spend that much time on every one of these, but Hitomi Yasuda is a very, very vital part of the original general partnership team with her underwriting specialties, as well as financial data, discover, what we call discovery, where we go through the financials and confirm that P&Ls are what they're supposed to be. And then Mitch Snyder, who rounds out our original general partnership team on the construction side, helping put that budget together that you saw a moment ago. But as you all know, when you take down a $28 million project, it takes more than just the original team. So we've got a large team that Hans Seelinger is a part of that. Beth Bungay, a lot of you know her. She's been a very, very vital part to the investor relations portion of the project, as well as brings years and years of real estate skill to this project. Caleb Johnson, Rain, Chloe Mazio, Kim Henry, Manny Juarez, Daniel Juarez, and Nick Lore. They all round out our general partnership team. Kim Brugman, you've heard me talk a little bit about her. She is our third party asset management, who oversees the implementation of our business plan with our property management team, and that is Aspire Realty Group with Dave and Eileen Crete. And guys, that is pretty much the team and the presentation. But we've over a period of time figured out that there's a lot of common questions that are asked over and over again. So we put together a slide to go over those. And I'm going to let Beth, if you're still on the line, I think you are, if you want to take it from here, I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. I love it. Such a dynamic project. And I'm so glad that so many of you were able to join us tonight. So first, I just want to raise you up and say thank you in case you run into a time crunch. But how can you invest? So you can invest with cash, your IRA, your solo 401k, universal life insurance policy. So I know a lot of people are like, how can I do this? And Rob is, as myself, and a lot of times we all have IRA money that's sitting, making seldom 10% in the market. And you can actually move that into what's called a self-directed IRA, which all of us on the team can help you walk through that process and literally get your investment working anywhere from that 15% upwards of 23%. So it's a really great way to become a passive investor right off the bat for many of you. Okay, so what is the minimum investment? So obviously our best returns are at that $500,000 mark. However, even as little as $50,000 will give you better returns than most investments out there in the marketplace. And you can do it either via the crowdfunding, which doesn't require you to be accredited, or you can do it on the accredited side with just a small difference in margin, but they're both really amazing returns for you, the passive investor. And you can participate with above average returns with as little as $5,000. And Rob, I think you and I and Nicole and our team, we all agree one of the most powerful parts about this project is that we really did want it to be a project that allowed impact. So allowed a lot of people to see through the window of how to possibly run a project like this and bring it to their personal markets. So that's why it's exciting to us to have our Investor Day on November 22nd. It's exciting for us to share with you these ideas because this is all about making that ripple and making an impact. And like Rob said, transform lives, transform lives. So we are
Amen.
inviting you to come and be a part of this ripple.
Amen.
All right. So how much is the GPs investing in this opportunity? So you'll find traditionally most teams will bring about 5 to 10% of their own capital in on the investment. This team has brought in well over 15% of the equity into this project. And that right there tells you how much we all believe in this. And we believe in also putting skin in the game. So that right there lets you know your partners are on the same wavelength as all of y'all.
And that's a critical question to ask. A lot of people don't even realize, even if you don't get involved with this project, which I pray you do, always have that as one of your top 10 questions to ask is how much equity, how much money is being injected into the project from the general partners? That's a great point, Beth.
Yes. All right. So then this is also another question that also really lets you know just how devoted this team is. So are these loans recourse or non-recourse? And that means, can the banks actually come after the people who take out these loans? So these are actually non-recourse on recourse on two of our parts of the loan, and one is non-recourse. And what that says is we, as a general partner team, legitimately believe in this project full-hearted. And that just, again, is just another way demonstrating to you our integrity in this project and our commitment to it. Okay, so what is the stability of your income? So obviously it's fun to make an impact and it's fun to help others, but it's even more fun when you can make some moolah doing it. So this is a stable, robust way to receive your income. And the reason it's so stable is because it is a government-backed project. These are bonds that were already approved for a 10-year period. The money's been set aside because Las Vegas really has that vested interest, as many communities do, to try and address the need of homelessness or urgent need of housing for prisoners being released, for foster children who are aging out of the foster care program. So there's so many areas that the government has every reason to support it. And this bond's already passed, got approved. The bond happened through the COVID period and got approved. And currently that's where a lot of these programs are coming from. We have a 3,000 person waiting list. And what this does is it ensures that we've got people to have those rents. It's ACH'd into our account. It is stable because those rents go up in relationship to fair market value. And that's driven by two things: inflation and demand. And there's obviously a very high demand, which is why the rents on this program continue to come in higher than inflation, as we've seen over the last 2 years in this project.
Yeah, good stuff.
Delicious stuff. I love it. So how much is collected for a new tenant? So we all talk about value adds in this industry, but for us, one of our value adds is that when we do sign that new lease, we get a $500 sign-on bonus for a 1 or 2 year lease. We get 2 months security deposit, and then we get first and last month's rent. So again, these are all great ways to keep liquidity in the program and continue to add value within the program itself. And then why have you closed and you're still raising money? Okay, so that's a great question. And believe it or not, this is very traditional in this industry. And it's traditional because at the end of the day, the seller wants to sell it, the buyer wants to buy it. Okay. So that means that we had to have enough money to get over the finish line and get to the close, which was that large down payment. Okay. So we are actually only have a couple $1,000,000 left that is available to our investors. So like Rob said, this is not going to be around much longer. So if this is something that motivates you, drives your heart, and you also want to make Mooo'la, this is probably one of the most impactful investments that I've seen come down the pipeline in a long time. And if you just want to be in the party and do 5,000 and see how the world operates, you're also going to learn. And that's what's so important is that we really have a project here that actually is giving to everybody in so many different directions. And that's powerful. So yeah, we're still raising because this is a really large raise. 16 million is a lot of moolah.
Yeah, absolutely right.
And then people ask, will our 3 keys loan stay in place during this opportunity? So we are doing it very strategic. We have some loans that are just over 7%. So those loans at the 4 or 5 year mark will be the loans that we refinance and we pay back the investors their initial investment. So you invest your money for 5 years, but you get returns for 10 years. And that's what made me fall in love with this for the investor, because there is no better way to make wealth than to keep your money working at 20 or 15% for 10 straight years. That is powerful. Okay. And then our other loan we have at a nice 5% rate. So we'll do a supplemental loan on that. So if you think of your house in an equity line of credit, that's what a supplemental loan is in the commercial real estate world. So, so we'll refinance, we get better rates, better loan amounts, better terms. That's good for all of us because ultimately that then is turned back to you, the investor, in better cash flow within the investment. So these are all super, super exciting things. So the question
is, drum roll, please.
what can you do next? Okay, so you're going to want to review the offering. And in doing so, you will make your subscription. So I encourage all of you to reach out to the person who invited you today. I will drop, I know a lot, I have lots of you guys here and I want to hug everybody, but I also don't want to drop the ball on anybody. So I will put my calendar link in the chat. So I think all of y'all know how to get there. Chat's at the bottom. And then if you tap on that to the right side on the white, you'll see that. You can also just text me and say, hey, Beth, I see nothing in the evening and I see nothing at 4 a.m. And that's when I'm available. And I will find you a time because it's important to me that you guys are a part of our family. So I will walk you through, or the person who invited you will walk you through signing up on the portal that's appropriate for you. And then you're going to wire your funds in. We are already active. So the moment your wire hits the account, you are actually making passive money on an investment. And then you'll be able to track your investment. As Rob said, we as a team will do, we do Zooms to give you updates on all the exciting things that are happening. We have newsletters going out. Matter of fact, we even have a letter going out to all of our investors, which we have a large family of investors, inviting them to that event on the 22nd of November. It is optional. If you can make it to Viva Las Vegas and join us for that, we of course would love to have you join us. So, but at the end of the day, I want each one of you to remember what 3 keys means for you and what it means for the people it's impacting. And that is freedom, prosperity, and love. And we hope that each one of you will join us in this amazing 3 Keys project.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Beth. Yeah, so, this, ladies and gentlemen, that's pretty much it for our presentation for tonight. I'm sure you can see why we're excited about this amazing opportunity. I did. Is it Rita that was in the chat that said that she's a probation officer? I'm sorry, Judy. Judy, do you mind if I ask you a couple of questions?
Sure, go ahead.
I just want to ask you, I mean, I thank you for your transparency. You said that you're a probation officer and that you struggle every day looking for housing for your clients. Talk a little bit about that if you don't mind. What does that look like exactly?
So, majority of individuals that are released from jail and they're sent to probation, their instructions is to make sure that they can provide us with an address of residency. And when they cannot provide that, majority of the times we're looking for housing, anyone who can take them. That this includes family members, friends, and majority of the time nobody wants to take them, so they end up homeless. And so when we're in the office trying to contact any of the vendors that we have contacts for as resources, majority of those places are full. And so when I hear of programs like what you're currently doing, it excites me. And I believe that several individuals have stated that they would like to have such a program in their city, and I'm right there with them because I would love to have one here in Sacramento, California. So I'm very excited to learn a little bit more about what you're doing.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for let me ask those questions live. I kind of knew, not exactly, but general, but you went exactly where we have shared on other webinars. A lot of people don't realize that there's people that have done their time that are actually released on parole early, but they aren't able to leave and actually end up going their full length of time simply because they don't have an address. They can't
Yes.
they can't put down an address on in a permanent residence, and that this program alleviates that and allows a lot of people. Parole and probation are very, very happy about it as well, simply because they've got another, in this case, another 80 doors they're going to have to begin with or 80 beds to release their prisoners to. So yeah,
Yeah,
so
it's
thank you.
very rewarding to hear that because, like you said, having someone who has already served their time to serve even more time, I, I don't even have a word for that, but it shouldn't be that way.
It
Yeah,
shouldn't be
because they
that
don't
way.
have a home. So
They don't
Rob,
have.
there's
Yes.
question
Yep.
in the chat, and I'm by Jeremy Taylor, and I don't know if this is one that you wanted to actually address out
Yeah,
loud.
I responded to that directly to him. So thank you for that. Yep,
I
yep,
know
yep.
you put a lot of moolah in this because I've seen the chart, but I also know that I also wouldn't put out my financial schedules across a webinar that we know who does not know will be receiving, right? So that's a
Sure.
fair enough request.
Sure, but I did send it to him directly because I want to answer his question. Thank you again so much, Judy. I do appreciate your transparency. Thank you so much. Yeah, so now I just want to open this up for Q&A for anybody else that's still on the line. But before I do, I just want you all to know that having done real estate since 2007, I can tell you that you've got to take some action. In fact, it's the name of chapter 2 of my book, Addicted to Life, that tells our story. One of my mentors, Jim Rohn, used to say, it's not the wind that blows on you that determines where you end up, it's the setting of your sails. If you're going to take your wealth walk, that's what I call it, to the next level, you're going to have to get uncomfortable and take some action. My goal, as I've already shared a little bit already, is to not only invest with you, because Claudia and I and our team will be investing our money right alongside you, but to also take your level of investing sophistication to the next level. That's going to be done through that education day, our monthly updates, all those things that I mentioned. And that's going to be done as we go through this project and teach you all, those that are interested, how these investments work, whether you want to just be a better passive investor or you want to eventually do these projects on your own, which I know many of you students, just like I was, just like I am, of this business, of different education companies, and you want to do these on your own. And that's our goal, is to help you in your investment journey education, just like somebody did for us. So I don't know about you, but I was striving for time freedom. For those of you that don't know what time freedom is, that's investing in projects, what investing in projects like this has done for us over long periods of time. It's allowed us the freedom to do what we want, where we want, when we want, with whom we want, for as long as we want. And if that's what you're looking for, you're in the right place at the right time. So our prayer is that you would come and join us as we change the world. So with that said, does anybody, I know some people had to bail. It's gone a little bit long here. We're right at the top of the hour. But if anybody would like to answer a question live, or if there's any questions we did not see or answer directly in the chat, now's the time. If you'd like to unmute yourself and share, I'd love to give you that opportunity.
Hello, Rob. This is Raul Claudio. I'm here with my wife, Anita Claudio. We've been with RE Mentor since about May of this year. We're still looking for that first property. But my question is, we don't have a lot of cash, but we do have a lot of equity. Our house and one of our rental properties are both paid for. What is the best way to get that money out? Is it a HELOC, or is it just some other way to get the money from the equity so we can help out others?
That's a great question. So yes, the answer would be a HELOC or a complete refinance. The challenge is always going to be the lending environment. Right now, I think on a refinance or a HELOC, HELOC's probably going to be in the 8% range, but even a refinance, you're going to be in that 6.5 range. It just may not be beneficial, and you're only going to be able to do up to probably 75% right now, depending on what part of the country and your credit history and so on and so forth. You've got to weigh up all those options, and that's always a personal decision, a decision where you do your due diligence, you find out what the rates are, what your monthly payment is going to be, and what your returns on other projects are going to be, because the challenge is this: in a situation where you would be using HELOC type money, it's a guaranteed interest rate you're going to have to pay, right? Because you've got a loan payment, but it's not a guaranteed income coming in. So there's a fine line there of risk, and that's and there's no risk in just leaving it in equity at the current time and letting it continue to grow, assuming that's what it's doing. So you may just decide to leave a safe, secure investment like that alone, or you may decide to wait until the lending environment is a little bit more friendly. Because if we were talking 2 or 3% rates, it's a whole lot easier of a decision to make, right? It's a little bit tougher when it's a 6 to 7% lending environment. So Raul, I would we can talk a little bit more on one-on-one if you'd like. Feel free to grab my phone number. I'll throw it in the chat and shoot me a text message, and we can hop on a call to get that question answered, to see if it makes sense to do this or not in that format. But there's a higher level of risk going that direction than it is in most other ways that you're going to fund a deal like this. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
Mr. Ramadas also dropped his phone number. He's a CRE lender, Raul, in the chat for you as well.
I appreciate it, Beth. Thank you.
Yeah. That's what's great and dynamic, is everybody's really truly willing to help. And at the end of the day, we want you to make good investment decisions. So as much as we'd love you to come in, we want you to come in under the right circumstances.
Right. Totally. Because
there is always that $5,000 spot where you're still gonna get to see how this journey works, and hopefully that wouldn't put anybody in a bind. So I think we've brought in bigger apples ourselves, Rob, but we also wanted to have an investment. And that's what made me excited, is that I knew everybody, if they really wanted to, could probably find a way to participate in this one and learn. And then one person learns, and then they're able to duplicate. And imagine how much better our world is when that ripple does start. So
100%. Yeah. So great question. And do we have any other questions we can get answered before we call it a night? Okay. Well, once again, I want to thank everybody for. Amy's raised her hand.
Sorry, still in the draw there. Thank you so much for this presentation. It was touched our hearts a lot, because it's such a significant problem everywhere. And the fact that you have working solutions and you have all the right people in place, not just to put the properties in place to house people, but also the resources. I mean, that's huge. it's the big picture to help people to get on their feet and help people who are otherwise completely disadvantaged, especially even foster youth. That just really, as an educator, touches my heart a lot.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy.
So I reached out to you, Beth, and I want to, I signed up for a Calendly too, and I wasn't sure which one, but we do want to make the move and support and invest, take this opportunity, and also love helping others. And I don't know if that's the best way to go, because I noticed you mentioned something about a portal, and are you going to give us that information when we meet with you in that Zoom? Does that work?
Yeah, when we get on the Zoom, I'll help walk you through the portal. And because sometimes, you guys, sometimes the portals have glitches. I'll let you in on a little secret. And so if I'm on there with you, I know where some of those glitches are. So I really do like to help people walk them through the process, especially if you've never done it. I mean, it can be a little overwhelming. So if you're on my calendar, I'll literally pull it up. You can be on Zoom. You guys can come over to my house because you're in my neighborhood.
Yeah. We might do that.
No,
We might have to meet with you.
Y'all, everybody's welcome. Some of y'all it might be a flight though, but yeah, I'll literally walk you through. I will show you how to sign up on the portal, and anybody else who is invited by Hitomi, Nicole, they can also walk you through. Paul, I see you showing up. Like my emails are like Calendarly. So, and if you didn't find a spot that works for you, again, I will reiterate, just send me a text. I don't tend to open up my Calendarly before about 8 a.m. And if you're on the East Coast, you might need me to put you in an earlier spot, and I have no problem with that. We'll just coordinate it. But yeah, Amy, we'll walk you and Paul through it. And thank you. I'm
Thank
so
you.
blessed. So many people do understand the power of what we're doing.
Thank you.
So
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. And Dr. Moore, I see you popping up there too. And yeah, just lots of Monier, I see you up there. Rod, I see you up there. So I want to raise it up and say thank you to all of you. And G-Day,
Yes.
I see you up there, and I said that right because I put it in my little quotes in my phone.
And thank you very much for the kind words of encouragement, Amy. That really touched my heart. So appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you, and Beth.
Yep.
I'm beside words. I can't tell you. Because this is the work I do in Maryland. We oversee these projects and this population, and it's very difficult. And you guys are a godsend, and I appreciate and I'm honored to be small part of this.
Awesome. That's so fantastic. Well, thank you everybody for coming tonight. I really do appreciate it. Once again, looking forward to welcoming you all to be a part of our invested family, and look forward to seeing you on November the 27th at our Education Day. God bless you all, and we will talk to you soon.